talk about the zone. That seems like the thing that everybody wants to get into. And I know your first book, I'm assuming, goes into that a lot. I haven't had a chance to read that one yet, but I always like to kind of start with what are we trying to do on the golf course and how can we get in the zone and play better a little bit more effortlessly?
Sure. I mean, so one thing is, what is the zone? That's a good question. And let me share a little personal history that really is elucidated in that first book, Finding Your Zone. And when I was young, I played competitive table tennis, and I was in the finals of the U.S. Junior Championships. And in table tennis, the ball in those days would go about 90 miles an hour. Today, it's a little slower because the ball's bigger. But what happened in that match is the ball slowed down. It actually came in slow motion. And I played really well for a couple of games, and it was in slow motion. And I thought I was going to be the US champion. And then I fell out of the zone, and then I lost the match. And the joke is with my friend who won it, got his name on all these rackets and Herman Sporting Good, which would be like Dick's Sporting Good today. The joke is he won, and he's the Olympic table tennis coach, and I'm the doctor now helping other athletes. So I became really fascinated with that phenomenon. Um, and when I went to college, my lab partner had just won 5 gold medals in the Olympics. So he was pretty familiar with the zone. It would be like going to college and your lab partner's Simone Biles. His name was Eric Heiden. And he not only won him in speed skating, he then raced in the Tour de France and has a historic athletic career. And he's a doctor. He's an orthopedic surgeon for US Olympics. And he and I are colleagues. So that piece came in, and I sort of thought, well, he's my lab rat. Okay, my buddy here. If there was one guy under pressure who was in the zone, it certainly was Eric Heiden, be at the top of the list, like Tiger Woods that sits behind you, sort of that level. Iconic, right? And then I started to be very interested in, okay, what goes on between the ears? And it became clear to me at the highest level of sport, it's more mental than it is physical. When you're first starting out, you have to learn the technique, you have to learn a proper swing. But why one day do you shoot 95 and the next day you might shoot 82, right? So there's no physical difference. So what's the difference? So in my training, I became very interested in what that is, what state of consciousness, and we did all these EEG, brainwave studies. We did neuropsych, we did hypnosis, and I did that in my residency at UCSD in psychiatry. And then, lo and behold, my brother calls me one day and he says, "Hey, bro, I got a tour card. I'm on the PGA Tour." So that happened way back in like 92. So then I started caddying for him on the PGA Tour, but I was a covert, undercover psychiatrist. But with doing that, I met many of the players, right, who were my brother's peers. And, now when I go to the senior events, right, it's funny for me because those are the same guys in the Q school. And I caddied in almost 10 finals of Q schools. And, back then, if you got through, you made the PGA Tour, 30 guys, and then the next set went to the Corn Ferry equivalent. Now it's a little bit different. So those confluence of events sort of brought me into the world of sports as a doctor. And from there, I really spent my career pretty much working in a lot of sports. So I've done a lot of stuff with the Olympics, helping various Olympians. And what you find is really the mental state of mind, whether it's high jumping, show jumping, because I believe it or not, I work in show jumping. And we're proud to say we had a guy win a silver medal this last Olympics, or golf. And of course, golf's probably dearest to my heart, I would probably say. And I would have to put it up there with the most mental of all sports. A little bit like I worked with the Chargers place kicker for a while, and place kicking is a little like golf. We call it freeze frame. All of a sudden, everybody's looking at you. and you can't blame anybody but yourself, right? And you're the hero or the goat. So that was really my entree into, the mental aspects of sport.
That is so cool. I mean, that's amazing to be on the bag for 10 Q school finals. I mean, that's like the pressure cooker right there. So I'm sure you were going through your residency, you're going through all your formal training, and then you're on the bag, probably seeing it firsthand. Was that something where you started to kind of see like the parallels between what you're learning and seeing it on the course?
Seeing it live, right? And
Hmm.
John Feinstein, who's a famous sports writer, he just died. And he wrote a book, A Good Walk Spoiled.
Hmm.
And he chronicled in that book my brother and I. And it was funny because when my brother made it that year, I went to the parking lot with all the caddies who, have long hair, squeaky, stony, and they're having beers. And all the players are whisked into the locker room with the agents and the companies, but not the caddies. And I'm having a beer, and I probably hadn't shaved in 6 days because Q school in those days. And I
6 days,
remember,
yeah.
yeah, John Feinstein came by and he's talking to, Squeaky. And then he says, hey, why do they call you Doc? And I said, well, I'm a medical doctor. And he couldn't believe it. He goes, you don't look like one. I said, if I can clean up pretty good. So anyhow, yes, as you pointed out, that was a melding of really watching it. And I've seen in my career amazing things in golf where, there's a player, I won't mention any names, but he was coming down the wire, 18 PGA, the stadium course, PGA West out here, and he thinned the ball, hit it into the clubhouse, not to get his card on the sixth day. I mean, it was brutal. He made an eight,
Oof.
and there he was, crying with his family. So
Mm.
you know, I remember Craig Stadler telling my brother once that he goes, it's really hard for you guys. He goes, I won the Masters. It's easier for me, and you get invited to the tournaments. He said, but the guys that are out there fighting, to get that tour card, that's a lot of pressure
Mhm.
because it's feast or famine.